Many will argue what the best scene in Attack on Titan is, and with good reason. There are a lot of good scenes in this series, many of which only visible on subsequent watches of the series. And of course, before we go any further, spoilers for Attack on Titan. Big warning, spoilers. I'm always so patronising when I do that. Spoilers! But if someone were to ask me what I thought the best scene in Attack on Titan was, well, it's the Reiner Bertel reveal scene, because damn, that scene is peak. But if someone were to ask me what the best written scene in the series is, well, honestly, it'd probably be the reveal that the entire series is a time loop and everything that happened was all predisposed, and the amount of foreshadowing in the series. Or the reveal of how the Attack Titan's powers actually were. Or maybe the founders. It's never actually completely made clear. Technically, the Attack Titan doesn't have any powers. It is the founder that Eren is using through Zeke to send memories back. So technically, the Attack Titan is just a Attack Titan, but also he's only giving the memories to the Attack Titan. He could probably give the memories to all the other Titans as well. I don't know, that's a weird discussion thing. I've gone off topic in the first minute of the video. But that's a cool scene as well. As well as all the many Season 1 piece of information you go, that was a weird thing to say, that forces you like, yo! Foreshadowing! But if someone were to ask me what the best written scene in the series is that no one really talks about, no, there's a lot of those as well. Okay, look, I'm talking about this scene. I want to talk about this scene, okay? This scene is awesome. When this episode first released, we as the audience had no way of knowing how significant this scene was. Especially off the coattails of the previous episode, and the massive reveal, and the awesome fight, and the fact that you're still kind of reading like, oh wow, massive information. You look at it and go, oh, they're sitting around talking. Oh. But on subsequent watches, you're watching this scene, you're thinking, oh wow, foreshadowing! However, even so, in being as in the unknown as Eren, that's a mouthful of words. But the first time we watch this episode, we can glean a lot of information. One, it's clear how much more Reiner and Bertold know about not only the Titans, but the world beyond the walls, where they apparently come from, which, upon release, we had no way of knowing about. Two, that Ymir and Reiner have some sort of past. Three, Ymir knows a lot more than she lets on. 4, Reiner's compartmentalizing, which doesn't actually really have much impact on the scene, but it's a good little thing to like keep in your pocket for later. And 5, Reiner and Bertold are warriors. Whatever that means. Although we're given a lot of the puzzle pieces, we're not given enough to be able to make a clear picture or even sure what the picture is supposed to be. But ultimately, within this video, I want to focus on one question that Eren asks.
Who's the enemy?
Because within the world of Attack on Titan, that is a very contested question. When the episode first released, of course, to us as the watcher who have been watching the series and being shown Eren and the rest of the people on Paradise Island as the heroes of the story, when we are shown this scene, we see Reiner and Bertold as the enemy, because at this point in the series, they are the enemy. They're the ones who breached the wall. They're the ones who let the Titans get in. They're the ones who led so many people to losing their lives. They're the ones who led to the fight for their life situation all the soldiers find themselves in. And they're the ones trying to cause humanity's extinction. Okay, cool, so there's your answer. The enemy of the Attack on Titan world is Reiner and Bertold and whoever they're working for. Cool, thanks for watching, hit the subscribe button, check out some other videos, and I'll see you later. Bye! Okay, no, yes. When you first watch it, that may seem like the obvious answer. But on subsequent watches of the series, things get complicated. When you revisit the scene after watching the later seasons, suddenly the question of who is the enemy isn't so clear-cut. Later on in the series, we find out that the people on Paradise Island aren't the remaining people of humanity pushed to the brink of extinction by the Titans. No. In reality, they're the remnants of what was once the most powerful nation in the world who had the power to control the Titans. but who had their memories erased by their king who denounced war after seeing all the suffering of his bloodline had brought. Maybe. Or perhaps Eren orchestrated that from the future a long time in the past, and all that happened was because Eren orchestrated it. Like I said, it gets a bit complicated sometimes. Time travel, man. It's not even time travel. Despite the king's denouncement of war, it doesn't change the fact that his ancestors were tyrannical dictators who enforced their will on the world. Unless it was Eren, maybe. Who knows? Oh, I love this series so much. Obliterating any others that threatened their reign and bringing other nations to collapse. Not to mention how the series ends with, you know, Eren kind of removing 90% of the human population from Earth with his actions. And yeah, as well as most likely being the puppeteer master behind all the actions of the last 2,000 years. So, yeah. But what about Ymir's side? Ymir states that she was wandering around as a mindless titan for around 60 years. And considering we know the first king fled to Paradise around 100 years ago, this means Ymir turned into a titan around 40 years after the first king denounced war. And was born somewhere around 25 years after the first king denounced war. Having, when she became the Lady Ymir, somewhere around the age of 5 to 8. Her specific age isn't important to the overall story. She became the Lady Ymir at some point, and then when she was older, she was sent to Paradise. It didn't matter when she was 5 or 8. At some point between that period and when she was about 15, she was running the cult and then she got sent off to Paradise. However, those who took her from the slum were the first generation of persecuted Eldians. A world where the Eldians were most likely the most hated they had ever been, and where many of the Marleyan population were still old enough to have lived through the Eldian tyranny. Where many of the elderly were most likely survivors of the Eldian dictatorship. When Ymir was born, restorationists were still an active thing in the Marleyan society. Hell, that is her entire story arc. A handful of cultists, conmen, fanatics, madmen, crazy people. Let's just call them opportunists. Yeah? Let's say a handful of opportunists, I can't say that word, took a child from the slums and put her in a position of being the Lady Ymir. Created a religion around her, and then around the year 785, Marleyan soldiers broke down the door and her father figure betrayed her. So, who is Ymir's enemy? Is it her father figure who betrayed her? Is it the Marleyans who ended her life as a prophet? Was it the king for announcing war? Or perhaps it was even Eren for what he had yet to do in the past, in the future, due to the actions that have yet to happen, that will happen because his actions in the future orchestrating the things of the past. That's a sentence I just said. Or perhaps Ymir just has no enemies. Ah! She is such a complex character that is owed her entire own video to explain such a construct. But just to grossly undersimplify it, let's just say, if Ymir steals bread from someone to survive, and then someone steals from her to survive, she can't be angry with them or see them as an enemy because they're just doing what she does to survive. Does that make sense? However, the most interesting thing about this is Eren didn't ask, who is the villain or who is the bad guy? Because those questions have very easy answers. Who are the villains of Attack on Titan? Well, by the end of the series, it's pretty much any character who has ever done anything in the series. The villain of Attack on Titan was the barbarian Fritz for attacking Ymir's village. The villain of Attack on Titan are his descendants who use their powers of the Titans to tyrannically rule over the world. The villains of Attack on Titan are the Marleyans who abused the power they had to try and rule the world. The villains of Attack on Titan are the Titan Shifters who broke the wall allowing Titans to get in. The villains of Attack on Titan are the Jaegerists who declared war on the rest of the world. The villains of Attack on Titan are the Marleyan soldiers drunk on power, abusing it. The villain of Attack on Titan is King Fritz for stealing the Eldians' past. The villains of Attack on Titan are the heads of the Church of the Wall who had anyone who posed a threat killed. The villain of Attack on Titan is Eren Yeager who brought humanity to the brink of extinction. But that's not the question Eren asks. He asks, who is the enemy? And even in the manga, the question is, what is the enemy? And that's a slightly more complex question. Because is there really an answer? Truthfully, who is the enemy in Attack on Titan? Is there really anyone in the entire series you can point at and go, yep, they're the enemy? To the rest of the world, the Eldians who wield the power of the Titans and could wipe out humanity tomorrow if they wanted to, are the enemy. To the Eldians on Paradise, the rest of the world who want to wipe them out are the enemy. To the inhabitants of the internment camp, it's their ancestors who cause all the suffering that's the enemy. Even in the past of the time of the barbarian King Fritz, he was a monster, but he existed in a time where if he didn't fight, someone else would come and pillage his tribal settlement. His enemy were the other tribes who would do the same to his tribe as he did to others. Now, this isn't to excuse any of his actions. Absolutely not. He was a monster who was far more brutal than he ever needed to be. However, it is just the truth of the world. If you are put in a situation where it's either fight or die for survival, if you don't fight, you will die. And that is the choice he made. So, who is the enemy of Attack on Titan? Or, better put, what is the enemy of Attack on Titan? Well, I think it's a very simple answer. That's the truth of almost every story ever written in the world. What is the enemy? It's fear. Fear that another tribe would destroy the life Fritz had. Fear that King Fritz would unleash the rumbling. Fear that the Titans would breach the wall. Fear that the rest of the world will attack Paradise. Fear that the Eldians will one day reclaim the power they once had. Fear that Marley will lose the power they have. It's fear of the unknown, and fear that tomorrow every single thing you've spent your entire life working towards and building and putting blood, sweat and tears in can be ripped away from you. And the only way to ensure that doesn't happen is for you to strike fast. For you to be the one ripping away all that others have spent their entire life building, so you can ensure that you can hold on to what you spent your entire life building. That's not the takeaway, is it? That's depressing. Oh, that is the takeaway. Damn. Okay. Well, I don't know how to finish this video, so I'm just going to leave. Much like Attack on Titan Season 2, I'm hopeful that many of the more boring moments will, in hindsight and with context from later seasons, actually make what seemed like boring moments into many little strategically placed moves that are actually proper hype after you know what they're leading to. With one of them even paying off in a post-credit scene at the end of Season 1 and setting up at the events of Season 2.
I don't know.